the Grand Rapids Area Fisheries Office. We're going to talk about sunfish. So just stand by for a minute. Remember, if you want the multimedia, go ahead and turn that on.
It should be good.
Looks like we're up and running. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Dave Weitzel from the Grand Rapids Area Fisheries Office. Dave, tell us about yourself.
Grand Rapids DNR Fisheries Office. So my work area includes Itasca County and the western part of St. Louis County. We take care of all of the fishing lakes in that area. But I've also had the privilege of being the co-chair on the DNR's Panfish Technical Committee for the last 5 years. So this is a committee of fisheries biologists from around the state that meet a couple times a year to discuss panfish issues. And here over the last several years, we've been working on this sunfish initiative. And that's what I'd like to talk about a bit today.
Sounds good.
Well, I was hoping we could start out with a slideshow that'll get into some of the details of our quality sunfish initiative. So I'm going to try to load that right now. You able to see the slideshow, Craig?
Yep, coming in good.
Excellent. Well, like I said, I've been a member of this Panfish Technical Committee for a while now, and our most recent work has really been focused on quality sunfish management. People might want to know, why are we talking about quality sunfish all of a sudden? The reality is this is a conversation that's been going on for a very long time now. Routinely, we'll partner with the University of Minnesota to do angler mail-in surveys. So licensed anglers will be randomly chosen. They'll receive a flyer in the mail, and they have an opportunity to answer some questions about their fishing experience. And this really helps us understand how our anglers value the fisheries, what kind of things are important to them, because it really is our mission to manage the fisheries more so for the sake of the people that enjoy fishing than for the fish themselves. And when we look at these surveys going all the way back to the 1980s, we found that anglers are generally happy with the number of sunfish that they catch, but they're often dissatisfied with the size of those fish. Over time, we've done some different things to try to manage these sunfish populations. The most recent change occurred back in 2003, when the statewide limit was reduced from 30 fish to a limit of 20 fish. We've kind of continued to track these angler perceptions over time. Most recently, there were mail-in surveys conducted between 2016 and 2018. But what we found is that the sunfish quality really hadn't improved. Anglers had a similar sentiment today as to what was reported in the 1980s. They're happy with the number of sunfish, but many people are telling us that, hey, these places where I used to catch big sunfish, it seems like those large fish aren't available anymore. We've also got a citizens advisory committee that's dedicated to panfish. So this is a group of anglers from across the state that represent all different types of stakeholders. So we have everyday anglers, we have resort owners, we have fishing guides, we even have some fishing media personalities that are part of this panel. We kind of reformed this group in 2015, and we asked them, what's your number one concern with panfish? Where would you like to see the DNR focus more management effort? And they felt like poor sunfish size quality was their number one concern. And more specifically, they were concerned about areas that currently have large sunfish that those populations could decline over time. So they asked us to take a hard look at what could be done to try to protect some of these quality populations. And when I say quality sunfish, I'm talking about sunfish that are over 8 inches in size. That's where anglers tell us that they really prefer sunfish that are 8 inches and bigger. So initially, our citizens work group really pushed hard for a statewide limit change. They thought that might be the best approach to take. But we learned through our mail-in surveys that this idea really wasn't supported that well by anglers across the state. Most anglers felt that a 20 fish limit was appropriate, and our biologists felt that a 20 fish limit is appropriate in most cases. Quite frankly, a lot of lakes just don't have the ingredients to grow a large bluegill. In some lakes, the habitat isn't right. In other lakes, there's simply too many fish that are competing with each other, and they won't grow enough over their 10-year lifespan to ever achieve 8 inches. In those cases, a high limit makes perfect sense and it's completely biologically appropriate. But there are a number of lakes that have the ingredients to grow a large sunfish. They can produce growth rates of at least 1 inch a year. They have a track record of producing large sunfish. It seems like maybe those lakes should be the focus for additional protection. And when we did these mail-in surveys, we found that indeed our angling public supported individual lake management on lakes where we felt there was biological potential to grow large sunfish. So that ended up being our focus. So we did do some research. We wanted to know what impact that the change to 20 fish has had. So we've looked at our lake surveys that have been conducted around the state since about the 1970s. And what we found is going from 30 fish to 20 fish has helped stop any kind of a decline in size quality across the state, but it really hasn't led to an improvement. So going all the way back to the 1990s, the average size sunfish that we sample in our DNR fish surveys is around 6 inches. But we also wanted to take a look at the management history across the longer time period. So we really dug into our archives and found that the primary management activity for sunfish has been the use of fish limits and seasons. And we're a bit surprised to learn that these limits actually go all the way back to the 1920s. Back in 1920, there was a 25 fish limit for sunfish, but we were somewhat surprised to learn that there was actually a long closed season and a size limit for sunfish. And over the decades, these regulations changed. Sunfish regulations were most restrictive during the 1930s, which is an interesting time period because it corresponds to the Great Depression. At that time, the limit was 15 sunfish, and the state was actually split into 2 zones with different closed seasons in each one of those zones, with the realization being that sunfish spawn at very different times in southern Minnesota than they do in northern Minnesota. But these closed seasons generally included much of the winter through early summer. So in the 1930s, it seemed like there was very restrictive regulations for sunfish. You move ahead a few years to the 1940s, at the end of the Second World War, the regulations began to change a little bit. The zone approach was done away with. I think folks felt it was too confusing and wanted a single statewide season. But the big changes started to occur in the 1950s. In 1951, the regulation was changed to allow a 30 fish limit. And in 1954, the season was done away with. So beginning in 1954, anglers could harvest sunfish and crappies year-round in Minnesota. During this time period, a lot of returning soldiers found that they could get better jobs for the first times. They had a little bit more free time. They had a little bit more money to spend, and fishing license sales really increased during the late 40s through the 1950s in Minnesota. So these regulation changes also corresponded to a time when fishing pressure was at unprecedented highs in the state. But I like to go back to this period in the 1930s a little bit, just to kind of reiterate that these regulations once upon a time were quite more restrictive than what we see today. And this was during a period when angling technologies were quite primitive compared to what most anglers are used to in modern times. In fact, if you were a bluegill angler in, say, 1938, you probably went out with something as simple as a cane pole and a Folgers can of worms that you dug out of your garden to harvest bluegills. And yet the thought was that bluegill needed fairly restrictive limits in order to protect those populations. These days, we hear a lot of concerns from modern anglers about how advanced our technologies have become. And we all like these technologies. We all very much enjoy going out, purchasing some new tech, putting it on our boat. Maybe we use it in the wintertime. But I think there's a realization that if we're going to have these technologies that make the fish much more accessible to us, we need to be a little bit smarter about how we harvest the fish. And one of the technologies that's very fun to use, but certainly seems to have a big impact, is social media. Because word gets out about a hot panfish bite, and the fishing pressure increases almost immediately. I remember when I was growing up, we'd hear that the fishing was good on Nisswa Lake, and by the time we'd heard about it, that bite had already slowed down. These days, I'll get a call from my buddy that heard about a hot bite on Facebook. We can find all the information on a lake that we've never even heard of before on the internet. We can probably even find some YouTube videos telling us the best techniques to use for that time of year. We're willing to drive quite a distance. We have the Navionics chips both on our phones and in our boats, and we can be fishing the best sunfish habitat on a lake that we've never fished before in the matter of hours. So certainly we can definitely target these fish when the fishing's very good. The question becomes, how sustainable is that? And that's a conversation that we have with anglers all across the state. Unfortunately, we know that the size structure changes that anglers tell us about are real. There's been size quality declines that have been documented both in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And we also know through scientific research that angler harvest is a leading cause of these size quality declines. And this is for a couple reasons. First off, as anglers have become more effective at targeting sunfish, they're able to remove the large fish faster than nature can replace them. We're pretty far north and bluegill grow slowly here. It takes about a 8-year period to grow an 8-inch bluegill in most lakes. So those 9 and 10-inch bluegills that we love to catch, they're not easily replaced. The other thing that occurs is the bluegill will modify their biology around harvest. If a fish finds itself in an environment where it's not likely to live very long, it ends up reproducing at a smaller size and a younger age. That way it can get its offspring out into the environment. But when that happens, their growth rates change. All that energy that had been used for fast growth is now needed to produce eggs and sperm and go through the rigors of spawning. So after enough generations of these biological changes, you start to lose the potential to grow a large sunfish. And once that's happened, it can be very difficult to correct this problem. One of the more famous studies that occurred was a study conducted by Olson and Cunningham in the late 90s, or the late 80s, excuse me, where they took data from the Fuller's Tackle Contest in Park Rapids, Minnesota. This was a contest that had occurred over a long period of time between the 30s and the 1980s, where local anglers could bring in the big fish that they caught and register them. And at the end of the year, whoever caught the biggest fish won a really nice prize. And what Olson and Cunningham found is that the entries for large bluegill were relatively stable prior to 1954, but started to decline thereafter. And it just so happens that that time period corresponds with this change of increased fishing pressure and the change to a continuous season. So kind of an interesting coincidence, to say the least. So what went wrong? Why did these harvest practices have such a big impact on angling, and what was the messaging at the time? And to answer this question, I think back to when I was learning to fish. My grandpa would take me fishing at this shallow channel off of Nisswa Lake. I grew up in the Brainerd Lakes area. And this channel would warm up in the spring and it would draw a lot of sunfish up into this channel. And we go down there and we'd catch fish, and we chose to harvest fish with the goal of harvesting our limit when we went out. And we would basically harvest any fish that was bigger than our hand that went into the bucket. Grandpa would say that we'd keep the big fish, but the little ones we'd let go so that those little fish could grow up and become big fish. Made total sense. It kind of fits this common sense approach, but unfortunately, fish don't always follow common sense. Fish do some things that are pretty special, that are pretty in a way almost nonsense to our way of thinking, and that's because of this biological rule of carrying capacity. Basically, the way that nature works is that an environment is going to produce a certain amount of fish weight every year, up to a biological capacity. It really can't sustain fish weight above that capacity. If the population drops below that capacity, nature tends to fill that void. So simply put, when I remove fish weight from a lake, nature wants to replace that missing weight, and it does it in two ways. The first way is that the fish that are left in the lake are going to grow, they're going to get a little bit bigger, and they're going to add weight. The other way is that next spring, we're going to see an increased survival of small fish. Now, for something like a bluegill or a sunfish that reproduces well most years, most of that replacement is going to be through increased survival of young fish. That's because in northern Minnesota, we have a very short growing season. We can only add so much fish weight to individual fish. We tend to see that the next year class ends up being a big year class. So these fish reproduce and have high survival. We call that a recruitment response. Problem is, as we have more small fish in the environment, they're competing with each other, and that reduces their growth rate. And also they get the sense that they need to reproduce at a younger age and a smaller size because they don't have to compete with large sunfish anymore for spawning habitat. So we start to see these shifts from having relatively few large sunfish in a lake to having a heck of a lot of small ones out there. Either way, the lake's producing the same number of pounds of sunfish. It's just a question of how that weight is divvied up, either among a relatively few large fish or a whole lot of small ones. The good news is that we've been able to protect some populations by reducing the bag limit, by taking the harvest pressure off those large individuals. So 5 and 10 fish bag limits have been tried on about 60 lakes across the state. And we've been able to go into some of these lakes after a 10-year period and do lake surveys and try to understand how the regulation has impacted the quality of the sunfish. And what we found is that in a lot of cases, these populations had large sunfish in them prior to the regulation, but we were able to see an increase in average size after about a 10-year period. So in this graphic, the blue line shows kind of the size structure 10 years after regulation had been in effect. And what we've seen is a big increase in fish between 7.5 and 8.5 inches. The other thing that we've seen is an increase in average age of the fish. And what that tells us is our fish are getting bigger because they're also growing older. It means that the harvest has been reduced and the fish that people are catching and releasing are surviving. So this is some good biological evidence that these regulations are doing what they were intended to do. And that's led us to this quality sunfish initiative approach, where we've had our biologists identify about 150 lakes around the state that they feel have good biological potential to grow large sunfish. And now we're working with the public to find out whether or not it's socially appropriate to apply a 5 or a 10 fish daily limit on these lakes to see if we can maintain these populations well into the future. And one thing to note, we've taken a daily limit approach with the goal of reducing harvest at times when the fishing's really good. you're still able to accumulate up to your 20 fish possession limit. So if having some fish in the freezer is important to you, you can still do that. It's just that you can only take these fish from the select lakes 5 at a time. And the goal is to try to provide a diversity of experiences by regulating most lakes for high harvest opportunity. So the majority of the lakes out there are still going to have a 20 fish limit on them. It's just a few of these lakes that are going to have a reduced bag limit so that we're going to have some opportunities to catch large sunfish as well. And we want these distributed all around the state so that anglers can have really nearby opportunities for both types of angling experiences. So as I said, there's a couple criteria that are considered when we're looking at these lakes. The first one is biological potential. And you might wonder, how do we measure this biological potential? As I mentioned, we've been doing lake surveys on most of our popular fishing waters since at least the 1970s. So we've documented things like fish habitat, water chemistry, fertility. We know what ingredients are needed to grow large sunfish, and we have a list of lakes that kind of meet these requirements. We've also been tracking the fish themselves. We know what lakes are currently producing large sunfish. We know how long it takes to grow a large sunfish in these lakes. So it wasn't too hard to come up with a list of lakes that make biological sense. A little bit more difficult to understand social acceptance, however. So we wanted to start out by working locally. So our area offices contacted local lake associations, local fishing guides, worked with resort owners to find out whether there was a general sense as to whether these regulations were socially appropriate. And this was done before any formal regulations were written. For lakes that seem to have both biological potential and social support, the next step was to write formal proposals for these lakes. And for the first round of lakes, this occurred over the course of the winter of 2019. Once these formal proposals were approved by the commissioner's office, we spent much of last summer and fall collecting additional insight from anglers, and we wanted to cast a very broad net. So there were 3 different avenues to collect this information. The first avenue was through online meetings. We held 5 online meetings around the state. These were WebEx style meetings. We also held in-person meetings locally. Every county that had a proposed lake, and there were 97 lakes that had been proposed last year, there was a public meeting held in each one of those counties. Unfortunately, turnout at these in-person meetings is often poor. And given the pandemic, it was especially poor last year. So it was difficult to draw a lot of insight from our in-person meetings. But what did prove extremely valuable, for the first time, we held an online survey to collect fishing regulation acceptance data. And this proved to be extremely popular. We ended up hearing from over 3,700 anglers across the state, and 85% of those anglers supported reduced bag limits. Basically, they were given the option to support a 5 fish limit, a 10 fish limit, or not support a reduced bag limit and stick with the 20 fish limit. Most anglers said that they would support either the 5 or 10 fish limit and really preferred that the DNR choose which option was most biologically appropriate. They were also given the opportunity to identify additional lakes that maybe weren't on the DNR's radar. And we were somewhat surprised that they came up with a list of 500 additional lakes. Now, as biologists, we know that not all of these lakes are going to meet the biological potential to be included in a quality sunfish management strategy. But it did identify some lakes that maybe we want to take a look at. Maybe we want to do some additional survey work so that we can understand those fish populations better. Given the strong support, we did move forward on 94 of those lakes and recommended that new regulations go into effect. That was supported by our commissioner's office. So a bunch of regulations did go into effect as of March 2021. The The specifics are that 44 waters have a new 5 fish daily limit for sunfish. 31 waters have a 10 fish limit of sunfish. There was also interest in some areas of including a crappie regulation. So 17 lakes have a limit of 5 sunfish and 5 crappies, and 2 lakes have a limit of 10 sunfish and 5 crappies. There's also an additional 50 lakes that were proposed during the winter of 2021 that are going to go through the same public review process this summer and fall. In fact, we're working to get an online survey added to our DNR website on the Sunfish webpage, so that it's very easy for anglers to comment. We'll also hold another round of these public input meetings this fall, because again, we really want to be sure that the lakes that are moved forward have both biological potential and social acceptance. And this is all in addition to the 57 waters that previously had reduced limits for sunfish, and those regulations remain in effect. So as you can see, it's kind of a targeted approach, trying to get lakes that are both biologically and socially appropriate, but it's a broad approach focused all across the state. And just to kind of state the goals once again, the goals of this initiative are really to maintain or improve size quality on these select lakes while providing a diversity of angling experiences across the state. You know, we're blessed with a diversity of lakes here, and we really do want to have an angling experience that fits the way that everybody values the fishery. But that means that our approach to management might have to be tailored to a few lakes. We might have to look at individual lake management so that these diversity of opportunities can continue to exist. But we also want to provide opportunities for reasonable harvest, whether that means going to a lake with a reduced bag limit and harvesting a few fish for a fish fry, or being able to go to the lake with a 20 fish limit and harvest a larger number of fish. So that's kind of our quick summary on the Quality Sunfish Initiative. If you want more information, we've put together a really good sunfish page on the DNR's website. So I certainly encourage you to check that out. Or if you have questions about a specific lake, I'd recommend contacting your area fisheries office. As I noted, I work up here in Itasca County. So if you have questions on lakes within the Grand Rapids area, you can certainly contact me. Or if you're wondering what lake, what area your lake falls into, also feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get you pointed in the right direction. But I hope you enjoyed the presentation today, and I will throw it back to Craig.
Nice job, Dave. I grew up fishing on the river here in Grand Rapids, and panfish were always a big part of the fishing that we did, because we didn't have access to boats when we were younger. We could bank fish or fish off the neighbors' docks, and had a lot of fun doing it. And it was great eating too. I mean, sunfish were a little bit sweeter than some of the other stuff that we caught. I see we've got a question here from Doug. He wants to know, on the average, how old is an 8-inch sunfish?
Yeah, the statewide average for an 8-inch bluegill would be about 8 years. So you think about some of these really large bluegill that we're able to produce in a few lakes. Like I'm lucky enough in the Grand Rapids area to actually have some lakes that have 10 or 11-inch bluegills in it. Given the kind of growth rates we see here, you can actually produce 2 or 3 trophy whitetail buck deer in the amount of time it takes to produce 1 trophy bluegill.
Okay. I don't know if this one's more of a statement, but he's a big fan of the 5 fish daily limit. So he fished lakes with limits, found to be a great experience. And another question is, can they find a list of the waters with the new regs new proposed regs?
Yeah, I believe there's a link. I know they're on the DNR's website. If you look through the fishing regulation section, they're listed as special regulations. At one point, there was a list on the Sunfish page. We're doing some updates to the Sunfish page right now, so I'm not sure if that content is currently on there. But we're going to try to get that content on the Sunfish webpage as well. Also, if you go to the state's Lake Finder feature, if it's not on the Lake Finder already, it will be. So when you look at your individual lake that you're interested in, it'll list the fishing regulations for those waters. And there'll also be signage at all of the public accesses. So we're trying to get that information out there and make it easy for people to find which of these lakes have special regulations.
Good. Do you notice any cultural differences in social acceptance of limits? And they're wanting to know, will you offer any outreach to various cultural groups, information in languages?
That would be probably a better question for some of the folks that have worked on our web content. I think what I've observed is more individual preferences among anglers, and it varies a lot. Because what we do know is that our anglers fish for different reasons. Some people really value a meal of fish. Some people value catching a large fish. Some people don't care if they catch a fish. They just want to go out and really enjoy the experience of being on the water. So I'm not sure if there's a cultural component to it, but we do know that these different values exist. And I for one personally believe that it's important for us to consider those values so that everybody has a way to go out and enjoy our fisheries.
I know the outreach section has been, Fish and Wildlife Outreach has been working on translating some of the fishing regs into various languages for residents around the state that I believe Spanish, Karen, Hmong, Laotian, Mali possibly too. So there's going to be some good information being made available shortly. That was the same question. You mentioned that the sunfish regs were posted at the landings, and I've seen those too when I've been out. It says, how are the kids' fishing ponds managed? Like, I think they're talking about the fishing in the neighborhood ponds.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Craig, you broke up for a second there. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. There's a question on how are the kids' fishing ponds managed, like fishing in the neighborhood ponds?
Yeah, those are generally managed for producing higher numbers of fish. So that wouldn't necessarily be the kind of case where you'd want a special regulation. Oftentimes those waters will be stocked with fish with the goal of having some neighborhood fishing opportunities to get young folks and folks that maybe haven't had the opportunity to fish before, something that's really easy for them to do to kind of get a taste for the angling experience. So a lot of times those would just be regulated with statewide type regulations. But it is a very good program that provides some really nice opportunities. I certainly encourage people to check those out if they have an opportunity to.
Got a question from Jeff, and he's asking, can you talk a little bit about sunfish reproduction? How many eggs can one sunfish lay? And what's the survival rate of those eggs when they typically spawn?
Yep. I'm with a sunfish. I'm not exactly sure how many eggs an adult female would produce. I would guess it's in the tens of thousands. The survival rate for an egg in nature is actually pretty low, but there's a lot of sunfish that reach maturity that typically they're anywhere from 3 to 5 years old when they spawn for the first time. And they're very adaptive, so they can spawn in a wide variety of different lakes across a wide variety of different habitats. So generally speaking, a lack of reproduction is never a problem for a species like a sunfish or a northern pike. More often they overproduce, and that can lead to this competition issue, and ultimately lead to slower growth down the road. So when it comes to sunfish, we're usually not that concerned about reproduction. That's why, a big discussion was whether or not we needed to close the season. What we find is that a closed season during the spawn would be very difficult because they'll spawn as early as April in southern Minnesota. They might still be spawning in July up here in my neck of the woods. And like I say, reproduction isn't typically the issue. The issue seems to be cropping off those largest fish, and just the amount of time it takes to replace the large fish.
Mhm. Got a question and a comment here, that this angler defined a keeper as that was bigger than his hand, about 8 inches, wrist to middle finger. If I want to encourage quality sunfish growth, should I be putting the larger fish back that are bigger than my hand?
It's a good policy if you really value having the opportunity to catch truly large sunfish. Letting those larger fish go is a great idea, and we've studied hook and release mortality on bluegill survival is actually pretty good. You're always going to lose some fish to hooking mortality, but survival rates of released fish are often 90% or greater. So more often than not, that large sunfish that you release is going to survive, and they can actually live quite a long time. So the odds are that that fish will get bigger and be caught by yourself or somebody else in the future. So kind of my personal rule of thumb, I like to eat sunfish. They're probably one of my favorites. But if I'm fishing a lake that has a reduced bag limit, I try to target fish that are less than 9 inches. The ones that are over 9, I choose to release. If I'm fishing a lake with a 20 fish limit, I'll oftentimes try to not keep more than 5 that are over 8 inches. With those higher density lakes that have a lot of small sunfish, there's nothing wrong with harvesting higher numbers of those 7.5 inch fish. But I will try to reduce the number of fish over 8 inches that I take home with me.
Got a comment from the outreach section supervisor here that says Spanish and Hmong version already posted on the web. Somali and Karen will be available shortly, and we'll also be distributing across the state in about a month. So we can get those out into the hands of the people that would need those translated copies. That'll be great.
Yeah, excellent.
And again, there was another question on list of water for the new regs, and you said they'd be on the website and available. So for folks just starting out on fishing, any recommendations on, just a hook and a bobber and a split shot and an angleworm or a night crawler or a piece of night crawler? That's kind of the way we did it.
It was a great approach in the 1930s. It's still a great approach today. And, quite honestly, as an angler, it gets me back to my roots. And I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy fishing for sunfish. It's not complicated. You don't need to invest a lot of money in fancy equipment, especially this time of year when the fish tend to be in shallower water. There are species that's very conducive to shore fishing. You don't even need a boat. So yeah, there's a real simple pleasure of going to a lake with a bobber and a hook and a simple worm dug up out of the garden and being able to catch some fish and take a few home for a nice meal.
That's right. That's kind of the end of the questions for right now, but I've got here's another one popped in. There's a link that was posted in the Q&A on the sunfish stuff there. So if people were interested, maybe we can get Benji to copy that link and put it in the chat.
I was gonna say, Craig, I did copy and put that in the chat. And
Okay,
somebody responded with a question in the chat too, if you don't mind me reading that one real quick.
go ahead.
Dave was just talking about sunfish and being able to catch them from shore. And there's a lot of weed growth and whatnot next to shore. And McKinnon was asking about if there's any type of vegetation that has a direct correlation with bluegill growth potential. And if there are, is there any initiative to help protect or promote that type of vegetation?
There is, and that's an excellent question. Research has shown that there is a link between bluegills and vegetation. They do best in lakes that are vegetated. They do spend a fair amount of time in shallow water. So having that vegetative cover helps protect them from both aquatic predators and avian predators. Their spawning biology is very interesting because they spawn in large colonies. Where you might have well over 100 fish that are spawning close together in a very small area. Boy, without some cattails or lily pads nearby, imagine how easy it would be for something like an osprey or an eagle to pick these fish off of their beds. Once they commit to spawning, they're going to be on that site for a few days to a week. So having that near shore vegetated cover, particularly the emergent vegetations such as bulrush or wild rice, or the floating leaf vegetations such as lily pads, are critical. And that's why the state of Minnesota has an aquatic plant management program. If you want to remove aquatic vegetation from a lake, let's say you're a lakeshore owner, for example, you're going to be allowed to do that. But in often cases, you're going to have to get a permit from the DNR fisheries section. And we're going to actually have a biologist come out and work with you at your site so that it's ensured that this vegetation is being removed in a way that's not harmful to the lake as a whole. It's okay to have a property that you can enjoy, but we have to be sure we're leaving something for the fish too.
Sounds good. I'll just check the questions here. We've got a comment that says non-lead tackle, and that's a good environmental choice to go out and do. We've got birds that may feed upon the bottom of the lake, and getting lead is not going to be good for them. So with that, I got a couple of announcements I want to make. This is the final spring session, and you can get registered for the summer session by going to the DNR website and clicking on the link. And you can find that landing page by searching Learn Outdoor Skills. And it'll show you all the summer sessions that are coming up. And you can continue to tune into our little weekly program here. Also, I've got a note that the next opening season is June 5th. We've got the muskie season coming in. So kind of mark that down on your calendar if you would like to chase muskies. We'll be having a program coming up shortly on muskie fishing from docks. So I want to thank everybody for coming and tuning in today, and we had some really great questions. I'll just check the questions one more time. Oh, Kathy was wondering if there was still lead tackle exchanges, and I don't know.
I think the PCA was running some of those before.
Okay.
I know they have a Get the Lead Out initiative. So,
Okay.
Kathy, if you're listening, I'd check on the PCA website and see if they have anything going on or not right now. So, I did see another one about slot limits. Dave, have you guys explored having slot limits at all, like they do for some of the other species on sunfish or crappie?
Yeah, we have. We're actually taking a close look at the potential for a length-based regulation. Generally speaking, when you're managing for size quality, a length-based regulation makes sense. If you're managing for numbers, then a bag limit makes sense. But we ran into a couple of minor issues. First off, when we did our U of M partnered surveys, we found out that the angling public's maybe not quite ready to have to measure sunfish yet. We'd asked that question, and it wasn't a real popular concept. The other issue is it hasn't been tried. Unlike the 5 and 10 fish limits that, we could go in and evaluate after a 10-year period, there really isn't a precedent for doing that. So our plan is to roll that out as an experimental regulation. And what we're looking at would be a 20 fish limit, but no more than 5 fish, could be over 8 inches in length. We want to try that on a handful of lakes in Minnesota to see if it has the kind of results that we think it would. If it does look promising, that might be something to consider in the future.
Sounds good. Well, we're up against our time slot for today. So check out that Learn Outdoor Skills as a search and get registered for the summer session. We've got some really good programming coming up. And thanks for tuning in today. Benji, you want to take us back to the green room?
I'll do that. And if anybody's interested, I did put a link for the summer series in the chat. You can go in there and click on that and register there too. So June 2nd is our Metro Muskie Basics seminar. So we'll go from sunfish to potential muskie food, kind of all in the same thing there. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.